La Tene ta tanda jerdo choje chimbo mari mesela tang hendro tang nguye ji dang somni ye benane tang hendro tang nguye ni bote char hendro la chutin juni tene ta tanda nguye la hine la chutin ji Lantong la chunting ji de judu. Tene ta de ji su ta tanda ji la ta chunting dang ye benane tangpo po denpa de tanong hadro yusin barel. Ta tering tande kapsul la ta tanda gei serware. Gei serwa sedu ta de si parchin rabo na. Tene digi kei de salware la tene ta deyang tene tanda ta ngarang ke sem de jitang ke jay dudang namba jundu tene jay tonong rabo jay so ne tene ngarang ke sem de tamalpa nyemong batang jepa ma inpa ye dema ne yixing ay ngo 다 yin sambatang tene ta ngarang phumbo khom dong jinchi denzo yang tene mzang wan da bodang tende la mzung ne tene ta tanda je iram jalai koi ngo yin samba ta tende ge tanong da bo tujundo go gi ware la Te yendo ta tene tusom kona sena pengre sambala. Tene tusom kona mayimpa. Tene yenchi menchi. Tene ta tanda ngaranzo nyam topa cheparjin jilla chewa tang khorwa le tholwa te gambe topla tene chungwa tang tene lama chena la tene chungwa yin sambage tene ngo hi pandabo ta tende ichi ye pandabo ta tepa to mu ye ba go ne nyam ni chi ku re.
In our text, the eliminating the darkness of ignorance, there are in general the three main sections of the text. These three sections are the preliminaries, the actual practice, and then the subsequent material. And so we have had in the first section on preliminaries, we have completed the first two of these sections. In the first section, the preliminaries, there are 12 different sessions. Then for the actual practice, there are 8 sessions that discuss the tranquility meditation and 8 sessions that discuss insight for a total of 16 sessions. And so following this, there is the supplementary or the additional material that covers 7 sessions. And so of the 7 sessions, we have covered Rinpoche has completed the explanation of the first of these, which is on enhancements for your practice. And so what we have today, this afternoon, at this point, is the discussion of the eliminating problems or eliminating difficulties in your practice. It is possible that there are going to be difficulties or problems that will arise in your practice, and so we need to know how to eliminate them. We need to know how to get rid of them. And one way of doing this is to always maintain see your mind as its pure appearance, and so always have the pure perception of your mind. And to see that it has been from the very beginning, it has been by essence the 5 different wisdoms. And also, you should not view your aggregates, your elements, and your sense bases. That is in Sanskrit you'd say skandhas, dhatus, and ayatanas. You should not view your aggregates, elements, and sense bases as being unclean or impure. Rather, you should see them as being the essence of the body of the meditational deities, the yidam deities. And so you should always try to maintain this sort of a pure appearance of your mind and of your body. You should also not think that it is just by studying and reflecting alone that you can attain complete and total enlightenment. Rather, that is just a sort of thinking, that is just a sort of thought. And really what we need in order to progress, in order to be able to free ourselves of the afflictions and the thoughts that we have, is we need to have meditation. We need to have the blessings of the Lama. We need to have a strong confidence, a strong belief that we can do this. We need to have faith and interest, and if we have those, then our practice will go well.
Tene ta te la te tabu ge ta rang ge sem de tamal pa ma yin ba yi hi nga yi ngo yin sam ba tong pung khang ji ji iram je lai ngo yin sam ba ten zo ta gong ge nyong nyong ma yin ba ta ga si ta nga ran su sem ji keng hong ge ta ne ta nong da bo ji tu jun du yi ta nong tong yi chi da bo ye ba ji go ge yo da la tene te la tene je lam yang ta ba la yo tene lam yang ta ba la yo ne ngaran nyam menwa chebar jin to tene te la tene ngaran so lunga ye sam te ma da ba ma yin ba ta ba yin sam ba ta bu ge yi chi tu jun du sen ji keng hong ge ta ne go ge yo re so 다 대지솔라 드네 케이셀을 탑라 가리고 그랬어나 당케파 삼숭고요라 케파 삼숭도 때라 당봉고 점발랑 케파트니 가두 이나야 제파파 신장다 보지 마히로와 드네 감고 점발랑 케파세도 감 가두 이나야 잡토파 냠린토파 드네 때라 제 두다 넘바전도 센텐히지 송네 양나 히네지 띵엔자인 내샤강랑 냠브리가바다 양나 환통가 띵엔자 사차강랑 냠브리가바다 틴데진 두다 넘바전도 마지바제 효기니 공다니 상대 가두 이나요 마지바제 예바데 동보 감고 점발랑 케바스 다니바데 간데레세는 초제발랑 케바 숭기요라라더니 데제 다감시라 잡투고 문두는 깔레카한다 보제죠나 드네 랑송 초죠 야데 징알소 데데세 데네데 고기요라라 데 좀도요 마지 베감라 강알 강양메 바파 점도 한다 보제죠나야 야 깝깔레 인지 미지 데네 초제고 그래 초제발랑 바르도 쪼째발랑 개바스 좀 요네 데지 요고 요레 개바섬 그는 이바
When we view our mind as not being sort of an ordinary, impure mind, but rather see it as being pure, or when we view our aggregates and elements and sense bases as being pure, this is not something that is born of meditational experience. This is just rather a thought of a pure appearance in the mind. This is just something in our mind to see them as a pure appearance. This is a sort of confidence, a sort of belief in it. And based upon this belief, we are then able to enter the path. And because we enter the path, then we can, then we are able to meet a good lama, a true lama. And because of that, we are able to receive the real instructions from the lama, and then make progress along the path and attain results on the path. And so, for that reason, it is important to have this confidence, this belief that our minds and our bodies are pure. And this is sort of like a motivation that we hold in our mind. Now, there are three different methods that are given here for eliminating difficulties, and these are the three ways of being skillful. And so these three ways of being skillful, the first of them is the being skillful in beginning. And so this means that at all times you are ready to start meditating. At any time, in any circumstances, you are ready to sit down and begin to meditate. You are keeping your mindfulness and awareness strong at all times. And so at any point you are able to begin meditating. You are skilled at beginning your meditation. And so at any time you are ready to rest into tranquility meditation and develop the stable aspect of your meditation. And at any time you are able to enter into insight meditation. And so this way you are able to always be ready to enter equipoise, and you are never really forgetting it. You do not forget this. And so from morning until night, you are always able to just, through your mindfulness and awareness, you are always able to enter into mindfulness. The second way of being skillful is being skillful in taking breaks. Sometimes when you are meditating, you have a bit of difficulty. It gets a little bit hard. And at that time, then what you should do is you should take a break. You should stop meditating and rest a little bit. So sometimes it happens that it's difficult like this and you take a break. And sometimes it happens that there isn't really any difficulty, that everything's going along quite nicely, but even at those times it is important to remember to take breaks, to stop, arise, and then to just take a little break from your meditation. So you just stop meditating, take a break, and rest a little bit. And so this is the second of the 3 ways of being skillful.
Tene ta tejen to sumbaga on to se na tene kapka la nyam sangbo be yapo jipo devo tene ta ngarang ke samna gam ngni yenten chin ji re sambata bo ji charna ya tela henchop me ba a je chin tene monte ne gam nyam chong lang ke pa se nyam de yang kapka la te si nyam dubon da bo chamna ya tela ji to ta tene tela je magawala suba pangte tene monte ne nyam selamba te ta ti nyam chong lang ke pa sungrela ta te ta bun ke pa som ju go ne tene tanda gom ne tene ta ti ge rang ke jula ji be ge hine dong long tong de rimji pel ne tene salvo ta tembo yakbo la jurgu ge ware.
The third way of being skillful is that sometimes when we are meditating, we will have an experience, a really nice, a good experience. We will think that this is really meditation, that meditation has really arisen within our beings. And so at the times that that sort of experience arises, then you should not be attached to it. And you should just keep meditating. You should continue being diligent, continue to continually meditate. And so this is called being skilled in sustaining your experience. And so sometimes it happens that the experiences that arises are really unpleasant, are really fearful or scary, that you might dislike these experiences that arise. But even at those points, it is important to maintain your meditation continually, to continue your practice. And so this is this is the skill in maintaining or sustaining your experience. And so once these experiences have these experiences have arisen in your being, if you have this skill of maintaining the appearances, then they will help. Then this will help your tranquility and your insight meditation increase and develop and improve. It will get clearer and it will get better.
Tene ta tige tanda kepasam jugo ne ta tanda keserwa rela ta teji solo keserwa tela ya ta te tanda keserwa ge tanda jiji la ji tela chutin danye benone chutin ibate ta chutin sumbate ya keserwa rela ta tanda kon tembe chutin ibate kesalzi ta tanda ud tempati salzi ke keita posonarela keitela number 2 ware number 2 da woni tembe somda boje yorela ta tinane tangbo kapde chunti sumbana la ke ni den yorela tini kolsa ta horsa se ke number 2 somare kolsa se na tini te gom jap kapla topa ta che gom yapo chung kapla tene kapka la dewe nyam yung yor pe devo tene te kapka la salve ki nyam yung yor kapka la tene matok pe nyam yung yor ta te desal matok pe nyam som sing te gom la chitang un tale re la tene te la hina o ta te yapo chi yen samne hina tene te si gom la parchi se yor la tene te kol ndo yor teacher na kol ma songwa nyam zangbo tang ngemba che sangyo tene tela chonzi ma jawa te ta kol sa som pombar
And so these are the three ways of being skillful that are used for eliminating difficulties and problems. And so this is of the 7 different, excuse me. This is of the 7 sessions on the the 7 sessions on the subsequent of the subsequent matter. This is the second of it. The third of these sessions is also deals with eliminating obstacles. But the difference between the two is that the second session, what it describes are what we use to eliminate the obstacles, the techniques we use to eliminate the obstacles. And the third of these sessions describes the obstacles or the problems, difficulties that need to be eliminated. And so these obstacles so here in this third session, what are primarily described are the 2 different types of problems or difficulties that can arise, which are called in this text they are called the 3 places where you can deviate and the 4 where you can lose. And so the first of these you might actually think of as saying pitfall. And the place to lose, what would we call that? I'm going to say place to lose for today. I'm sorry, I haven't thought of something better. So the first of these is the pitfalls that can arise for you in your meditation. And so sometimes when you are meditating, everything goes really well. And when it goes well, then you might have an experience. You might have an experience of bliss. Or you might have an experience of clarity. Or you might have an experience of non-thought. There are any of these 3 different experiences of bliss, clarity, and non-thought that might arise. And so if at the time that those arise you think to yourself, oh, this is really good, this is something, and you're attached to it, and you think this is good, this is something that I want, then it becomes an obstacle to it becomes a problem, a difficulty in your meditation. It becomes a little pitfall that can keep you away. And so here what happens, what you should do is whatever happens during your meditation, whether it is good or whether it is bad, you should not be attached to it, but just continue meditating.
Tene ta te jeso shorsa ya sungri la ta te la shorsa ya sete ta te la tombo tene toni hizi hila shorwa se toni hizi hila shorwa se na tene tanda chitang te dubo ji mare te hina yung gom jap kabla te si parchi che gom te tela nor na tene ta tela ngaranso ge tangbo ta jiba ka go ni chutam chi toni de tena pa tene ti ge goa ge toni tela jian me ba da bo ji ge toni ji la lo la sha ge yo de ti jian me ba da bo ji ge lo la sha du de la tene legend de la ye ti 다 돈이래 선배가 거네 대라 구구른다보다 대라 돈혼다보 제 전부 매바지죠 되네 다 디게 나란수 감용 값을라야 루지게 돈이 되네 루게 매바지 제파 로그 조니 동바니 예 되네 디게 텐데다보지 로라 용기라 텐데데세 돈이 희지히라 효와 다디게 지당그 지보그 고아디라 니히 야보지네 야보레 야보레디는 검베 같은라 디 검게 디 지보그 힌디 효나 야보요 말라 데니 다디 값을라 테네 간디지게 돈이 희지히라 효와데 테네 빵고 그래세나 테네 단다 네 선든즈바 코랑그 ngola 테네 마주 발nyam바가 나 돈이 희지히라 효와데 데 빵도 그래서
Next are the 4 different ways of losing yourself. So these 4 different ways of losing yourself. The first of these is called losing yourself to the empty nature of phenomena. Losing yourself to the empty nature of phenomena. And in general, actually, seeing the empty nature of phenomena is not a bad thing. But when you are meditating upon it, the idea of it is becomes an obstacle to your meditation. In general, we need to first develop an understanding of emptiness through inference. We need to first come to that knowledge of what emptiness is through inference. And when we do that, it sort of appears to the mind as if there is nothing at all, like nothingness. And when it appears to the mind as nothingness, then at that point we might begin to think that there's really no such thing as karma and cause and effect. And so we do not really have we do not really perceive the karma, cause, and effect. We lose ourselves to a conceptual idea of emptiness and do not see what the karma, cause, and effect are. Dila legendary quarter dila jiam ebe dila
jiam ebe
okay, and so you okay. And so at the point that this thought of everything being nothing at all arises, then you might get less interested in karma, cause, and effect. You might think that they're not so important, and you do not have any real interest in them. But this sort of emptiness here is really something that is mentally fabricated. And so when we meditate, this sort of emptiness actually becomes a bit of an obstacle, a problem for us. Of course, we first need to come to understanding of this through inference. But once we have come to understanding of it through inference, then we need to put it aside and not let it distract us from our meditation, not lose our meditation to that. And so we must not lose ourselves to the emptiness of the nature of phenomena. And so how is it that we can get rid of this obstacle? The way that it is that when the thought arises that there isn't anything, that there's just nothingness, then we look at the essence of the thought that perceives things as empty. And we look at that essence and we meditate upon the essence of that thought. And by doing that, the obstacle is eliminated.
Tene ta tejeso nipate toni nyembur shwa sekrela. Tene tige chenje nyembur shwa sengede nyemomba la te dupore sombe dancing rabota. Te ta tene ta ti nyembo la toni gongure sombe raboche yena. Te nyembur toni nyembur shwa sekrela. Tene te ya ta chitang nyemomba la poni raboche zbate yapure te yena gombe kabla nyemomba kandi se pangi yoresin nyemomba rang ngo te sardu zuba maimba nyemomba rang ngo toni imbala hine pangu yore mato nyemomba che tana yabache te toni gombe sal tende mare la nyemomba rang ngo rang hinki tomba ni imbala tomba ni imbra hina tene te nyemomba korang ngo te yetainto nyambri na tene toni topala tene nyam barang hingi hiwa in bichna ten toni nyambur hiwa te pangi ore.
The second way we can lose ourselves is to lose ourselves to lose ourselves to emptiness as the antidote. And so, normally we think of the afflictions as being something bad. We think of them as being an enemy. And so, You might think to yourselves, oh, I need to meditate upon emptiness in order to get rid of these afflictions, to get rid of these kleshas. And if we do that, that is actually losing ourselves to emptiness as the antidote. In general, of course, it is good to think in this way. It is good to think of the afflictions as being something that needs to be gotten rid of, something that needs to be abandoned. But however, thinking this way when we're meditating becomes a real difficulty. It becomes an obstacle to our meditation. And so the reason for this is that the essence of the afflictions is not something that is sort of newly created, newly constructed in our mind. It is rather, it is in its essence, they are something that are really empty. And so if we recognize that, if we know that, then we see that the afflictions themselves are emptiness. It's not as if the afflictions are something that exists and that then we have emptiness and that makes them go away, that eliminates them. That's not how it is. It's rather that it's that we are seeing that what is emptiness, we are seeing that as being emptiness, and then we know that it's emptiness. We recognize that it's emptiness, and then we rest in equipoise upon that. And by doing that, then the afflictions are naturally eliminated. They naturally go away.
Tene ta tejendo sumbate toni lamdo hirwa de la toni lamdo hirwa singite ta chitang ngara ta te ye ta lam ta debu kanga toni imbal ma hine ngara sanji je kompon top go re te topsi galang de tombani gambare tene tombani gambate ta yapore yen lamda langwa tenzo norwa re sambate ne 다 탑지찰라 되네 메셈바 다 탑지찰라 메셈바데 돈이 람도 걸어와라 되네 다 디그 랑hin게 추니 그네루 또바데 다 레마도 되네 동바니 미살 그 검바 동바니 yen somne 검나 대정게 뱀바 용리요 말에 되네 다 데라 디게 님보텔라 가레 강국이 와레세나 테네 돈이 디 야보이에 람이에 딘데부터 그래 sombe 디게 생징오 코란라 때나 테네 대야랑히 그 동반다고 임비쳤나 랑히 그 ял드로한다고 임비쳤나 디 돈이 람도 걸어 봐.
The third way of losing ourselves is to lose ourselves to emptiness as the path. And so here in general, our ground and our path and our result are all emptiness, but if we do not realize this and think that actually, oh, there's a me that needs to attain Buddhahood. I have to attain Buddhahood, and in order for me to attain Buddhahood, I have to meditate upon emptiness. Then we think that other paths and other ways of doing this are not good and are not as good as meditating upon emptiness. Emptiness is the best way of doing this. And if we think this, then we are ignoring all of the different means that there are. It is not thinking about all the different means that there are, and so not seeing that there are many different ways. And so here, the nature of all of these is emptiness, and yet that doesn't mean that we need to ignore them. So here, it's if we are thinking that, so if we just think that all things are emptiness and then meditate upon that, that's not really going to help us at all. And so when it happens that we think that emptiness is good and we think that we need to meditate on it, when we think that emptiness is good and is the best path, then we need to look at the essence of that mind that thinks that itself. We need to look at the essence of that mind, and when we do, we will see that that mind itself is emptiness. And therefore it will naturally dissipate, it will naturally disappear. And so in this way we can eliminate this way of losing ourselves to emptiness as the path.
Tene ta te yendo tanda yibate toni jindep sukirwa sekirela. Tene te zambo ngimba kaan chawna ya yang tongba ni re ta te kaan tongba ni yin sangde pa mayin zangshi ki jeda pa tige hidwa kanya pengi yo ma re la. Tene tige tongba ni re samkin te korang ngo la ta na tene rangin ge te nelu to ni salge yo re la ta te ta bu horsa ye se ta te yang horsa ye la ma hor we tap te sem rang ngo ge ne ta te gong ge yo re ma to sar to tongba ni re sinkin ji zu ni gong ge yo ma re la tene te tar to he na tene te horsa ye ta tal ge yo re.
The fourth way of losing yourself is losing yourself to the stamp of emptiness. So losing yourself to the stamp of emptiness means that sometimes you might think all things are empty. And so everything that is good and everything that is bad, it's all empty. So whether it's good, it's empty. Whether it's bad, it's empty. And so it doesn't really matter whether it's good or it's bad. And so we're just in this way sort of trying to put a stamp of emptiness on everything, whether it be good or whether it be bad. And so what we need to do at that point, in order to clear up this fault or this way of losing ourselves, is to look at the nature of the thought that all things are emptiness itself. We need to look at the nature of that thought, and then that thought will be eliminated. And so in this way we have these four different ways of losing ourselves. And in general, the way to eliminate these four different ways of, the method to eliminate these four different ways of losing yourself is to look directly at the mind that thinks of everything as being emptiness. And when you look at that, you will see that it is not as if it is something that is newly created or something that is newly becomes emptiness when you see it, but rather you will see that that it is empty from the very beginning, that it is empty by nature. And then when you know that, when you know that, then you will be free of these ways of losing yourselves.
Ta tige horsa yer ma horwa tan ta tige kolsa som horsa ye tan changa se ke je yore la changa te ta tan da topa dar lan kap kala nam to mambo ji lan ni sa ni modom ki yung yore te da je ji ni ba te tomba dar lan se ke te ni tomba re samne le jonde la ichi me ban da go yung se ke te tabu chona ta tenzu ki jesu ndangyen ga mare tene sumba te no adar lang pa segrela no adar lang de tela tene no anda manda charne tene ta te ge che yapore dupore samne zamba chembo shoma sumba te no adar lang pa tene yiba te nije dar lang pa ta te khahi la nije che ne tang senjing ge tan si gu gu do san ne tene ta ngarang nyomlin te pa yuk ne tene senjing ge tan se ba yung gre te ina ya ta nyomlin te yu ju yo ma re tene ngaba te tene junre dar lang ba yang ngarang ta tangbo te si nyom to da bo hi do ma che ne ta che chai la tu som che la chen gu gu sam ba da wo te la junre dar lang ba te ta tin zo kang ga la zo te ni ti ge tan da zo de Tony Ran, Semi Genelu Terran, Gomna, Tati Darlon, Nagati, Sergio Reza, Tati Hipa, Koranzi, Menog Segan, has a salvo.
And so these are the 4 different ways of losing yourself. And so we have covered the 3 pitfalls and these 4 ways of losing yourself. And then following this, there come the danger points, or the 5 danger points. And so there are these 5 different danger points that arise. And so the first of these danger points that arises is seeing thoughts as the enemy. And so sometimes it happens that there are a lot of thoughts that arise, and you think, oh my gosh, this is a problem, this is difficult. And so you see the thoughts as being a problem. And so that is the first of these difficulties, the seeing thoughts as the enemy. The second of these 5 danger points is seeing emptiness, or emptiness as becoming the enemy. And what this is when you think all things are emptiness. When that happens and you think all things are emptiness, then you might then not think about karma, cause, and effect. And then you might think that that's not important and not have any belief in karma, cause, and effect. And so you think that everything is emptiness, but this is not a reason to ignore karma, cause, and effect. So that is the second. That is emptiness, emptiness as the enemy. The third of these danger points is the appearances arising as the enemy. And so when appearances arise as the enemy, then sometimes there are various different appearances that arise, and sometimes there are very nice appearances, very good appearances, and sometimes there are very bad appearances, very difficult appearances. And so you might have some sort of an attachment to these appearances that arise, and that would be the appearances being as the enemy. The third, or the fourth of the danger points is compassion arising as enemy. And so that you might think to yourself, oh, there are all these sentient beings who are suffering, and I need to do something to help them. And so you think, I'm going to quit my practice and just go off and help these beings. But really, the practice is not something just to quit, not something to just put aside. And so that is compassion arising as the enemy. And the fifth of these is cause and effect arising as enemy. And so here you might find yourself settling into an equipoise where not a whole lot of thoughts that are arising, but then you might think to yourself, oh, I need to study and contemplate. And so then you think that you need to study and contemplate when you actually don't need to at that point. And so this is the cause and effect, or cause and result arising as the enemy. And so the remedies for all of these 5 different danger points, any of these, is to look at the essence of emptiness itself. Look at the emptiness of mind itself, and look at the mind itself and see its essence. And this is described very, very clearly in the instructions here.
Tene ta te jesula ta te chonga sarwate tanda chuntin yiwa insare zong. Tene chuntin ngaba te neden tingen zenje cake sam sarwa segera. Ni je cake, den je cake, tingen zenje cake, de cake sam sarwa singurela. Ta nasa ta jege nasa mandawa ta tinde chunga la. 당가라서 댄다고 문진 안게 와래라 되니 니제 파르치다 댄지 파르치 좀 갑슬라 되니 다티 데두 동ling 그 반다보다 되니 나사랑 ngola 나사랑 ngola 따나 되니 나사디 뇽네 뇽알라 나사람도 쳐와세데 나사디 뇽네 뇽라 되니 디게 네바 히라라 메바다고 동바다고 된데 용그래라 다티라 나사람도 쳐와 되네 내단 람도 쳐와 Tini tingin zenji kei de ta singwa ta gaba de la singe salwa ki tab de ta kasi kong to hini ke kap tong lang tong ke kap ten zo la salwa song yo re la ta di ke go ni en ro re la ta di tabu ke go ni ta rinpa yin to la hibra chawa de ta di ke tanda chun ting nga ba de tuba yin ba.
And so this discussion of the danger points here is the fourth session, and then following that comes the fifth session. And the fifth session describes dealing with the the fifth session describes the obstacles of illness, demons, and deep holding. So illness, demons, and deep holding. So here, these are, I think, on page 7 of the handout that you have. Now here in this section, then it says that there are many different types of illnesses, of course, that could happen to us. So there are these illnesses that happen, and when they happen, they are what we often identify as being like demons or sick. So we call them demons, and so that's what we mean by demons. And so when an illness or demon like this arises, then at that point you can do the practice of sending and receiving the good and the bad. That is the Tonglen practice. And then you can also look at the very essence of the illness. And when you look at the essence of the illness, then it nasa gingola tabe kaso de la kandecha de
nasa gingola tabe kaso la tene nasa te yal dogre besine yal dog mareti ina nasa gingola matabe kap ti ne pati yunki yo mareti ti tomba ndabo nasa te char ne charla te zom ga dubu me ba ndabo nyona ya je me ba ndabo.
And so at the time that you are looking at the essence of the illness and you see it to be empty, at that time it does not have such power to hurt you. It does not have as much power to harm you when you are seeing it's empty. You can see that it is emptiness, and it no longer has so much power to hurt you. At this point, of course, it does arise. It does arise and it does appear, but it is not able to inflict as much harm on you. And so this is also known as taking illness to the path. Now, when we talk about the obstacles of deep holding, these are primarily dullness and agitation. And so these were described above in the discussion on the tranquility meditation. And so that discussion should suffice for now. And so this completes the fifth of so this is the fifth session here. That completes the fifth session. And we will leave it here today. If there is anyone who has any questions, please ask them.
Rinpoche, my question is about the looking practice of looking or viewing in stillness, and according to the instructions that you have given us, one rests in a state of equipoise and good shamatha, and then actually looks. The question is that in that looking, there seems to be a very subtle effort or conceptuality that's going on when one is looking for the resting mind. My question is that correct? Is that the correct way of doing it, or is there a mistake there?
Neto tawa kapsu de la semgingo ante Rinpoche ki sung tarana de sem nebe kapsu de nyambrasha ne degi tendu semgingo tagares. De la de ta de la de number to tau chi yubara de noriana sina kane
number to ba yo ba yo sigre la me ba yo sigre te ina ya ti ngo te rangin ke ngo tong ba yin ba na te ngo ta tong ba se na je yo me tong ba ni ma yin ba ta ti ke ne lu sal tong jen ba se ta ta da mari me sir ka na to so na sal tong jen ba se de tene che shipi gente na ngo ma so wa ti namto mare che te salva che chate intereso kurang no te nyam yo ga capsula ti tawa che yo pate ti salva che chala mare.
Sometimes when you look like this, there might seem to be a thought, and sometimes there might not seem to be a thought. But if you look at the essence of what is happening, the essence of this is empty. But this emptiness is not nothingness, and so it is, as described here in this text, it is described as being clear, empty, and naked, or clear, empty, and direct. And so here there is here what this means is that the continuum of cognition, the continuum of mind, does not stop. And so what you're probably seeing is not a thought. What you're probably seeing is actually the clarity of the mind. And so it's this very subtle bit, and that is probably the clarity of the mind that you're seeing, not a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for your teachings. Sometimes life is horrific. Something happens that one simply cannot accept. I experience unutterable despair. In practice, cutting the despair feels like repression. However, sitting with it creates a river of tears, and it feels like self-indulgence. I have two questions. How do we accept the unacceptable? And how do we move through the immediacy of despair?
Ta kawa nga tsu mitse de pe misi dupores, tene misupare, tene de la ane kakawa gom chebe kapsu, de la daga ane de tsache drabo chena de number drabo iris, de go number drabo chaya iris.
Tsarkin.
De morangi tsache tsawa de cheba drabo iris. De gonen bravo chaires in the gas de misupores de dupo de sola mebares
dupo de tsoro meba
so de zupa meba sumetoba mezeba de la de misupa de la super country congres de chiche. Your first was about, and the second question was,
how do we move through the immediacy of the despair?
Yeah. Tenedela pe de dublo because de pe ane totawala de capsula de pe shukchempo kigere tenedela de la kande degres de kande kalgres.
Tela tene message ke tela chitang song tang tang chepare la che na ngarang song ta che dupu yin ta dupu tu pe dungare song somne teni dupuzo teni tele dusal song ma tongji yaksal song tang a chipore yapore teni tatanda devodo 나그면도 동할면도 약보도 약산이 성모다는 깝깔라 쟁이 발신다고 리링이래 온세그래 디솔이나 용기 요래 데 이나야 다 두부 말에 somne 되니 랑기랑 초히바 랑기랑 되니 셈바 강화 배 약산이 성모다나 배 야보요래라 대지당 그 군속군문이 tini tendam gunguni na tini tanda tang aranso pe chaje chimbo gambo kalwa sambo chumare tini tige tanda dubu yona yanda jibo yona yanda tini maungpa la tini khorwa ge nendane tarne de jipo samso banjunju ge kalwa sambo tanga tini te jay tanda tarba tarba dewa chimbo la longje pe kalwa sambo yin samne gomna tin te pengere ba
When we look at our human lives, there are different ways we can look at our lives. And so sometimes you might think to yourself, this is really bad, this is really terrible, I can't stand this, is horrible, this is incredible suffering, I can't deal with this suffering. And you're looking at this suffering, and in some ways this is making the suffering. And so here, actually you should not think about the places where there's suffering. You should not think about them, but rather think about the places where there's happiness. And think about the places where it's good. Think about things where it's nice and things where it's happy. Think about what is good in your life. Think about how you have the opportunity to have this precious human body and practice the Dharma. And so you have all this good stuff. And so you think about the good things that you have. And of course, it's possible that occasionally difficulties and problems may arise for you. But this is a situation where actually if you are actually satisfied with what you have, if you feel fulfilled with what you have, then this really won't be much of a problem. This will actually be really very beneficial to you and helpful for you. And so this is looking at it in terms of the relative. If we think about it in terms of the ultimate, we have the wonderful opportunity to be able to meditate upon the Great Seal. What a great fortune to meditate on this Great Seal. And this is the meditation that we can do that can, whether we have suffering or whether we have happiness, this is the meditation that can free us from samsara. This is the meditation that can liberate us from all of the suffering and bring us to the excellent state that is that is beyond any problems, and bring us to the bliss of liberation. This is the meditation that will bring us to the point where we can enjoy the bliss of meditation. Excuse me, speak. Let's see if I can get my tongue back. Get us to the point where we can enjoy the bliss of liberation. And if you think like this, it should help.
pe lagwani yopati kandi kalwa sambo tidi chitang tu jodula lagwani yopati kalwa sambo in sam tokyo mare de inaya te mete to anga lagwani ga yopati kandi kalwa sambo.
Rinpoche would like to give you an example about this. Once he was traveling around in India, and when he was traveling in India, he was going by train. And at one train station, there was a man there who had no arms. He didn't have either. He had no arms at all. Both of his arms were missing, and he was in an argument and getting in a fight with someone. And at that point, Rinpoche thought to himself, Oh, what a poor guy. He doesn't have any arms to fight him. But I'm really lucky. I've got 2 arms, so if I get in a fight, then I'm okay. And so normally we don't think of having 2 arms as being something fortunate or as being something good. But in this case, it really did appear to be something that was quite beneficial to have these 2 arms.
Thank you for bringing these teachings to Maine. My question has to do with experiencing the nature of mind and thinking. And this morning you spoke of the technique looking at the moving mind, and you could look at a thought that's fully developed or one that's already ceased, and that neither one of these was the proper technique, but we should look as the thought is emerging. And I think I understand that technique, but I was wondering, that's not to be construed to mean that that one can't have thoughts and simultaneously experience the nature of mind, is it?
The Thrangu Rinpoche judo atawa ande judo atawa de la ane de toba number topic tata number sum sumere spena de la toba yepe kaso de yadre mayabache de toba kebe kaso toba kebe ke kapso rang de ngo ata sumere tene de la de tescoson yene de la tene toba toba sharwe kaso de la singingo ma tope sunyo maribes singingo la toji maribes singingo de namto rang sharwe kaso la de singingo de karana toya yoribes
Te kurang ngo te topa xarna yanda, topa ma xarna yanda, senji ngo te kurang nelu te semti ngo takara yore la. Ngaran su sardu zuyo ni togu yo mare, kurang ka yopa te togu yore la. Te yapo te tatu na, namto xar yimba te ngo la, ten topa yapo te teju yore wa, nyam to, nyam.
Yeah, and so so actually, at the time that the if you are practiced, if you are well trained in this, then at the time that the thought arises, or that the time that the thought is appearing in your mind, at that point you can look at the nature and you can see that its nature is just that. Its nature is just that clear emptiness. And so the nature of this thought is nothing other than the nature of your mind. It's not different from that. It's not something that is newly made. It is something that it is this nature of being clear and empty itself. And so you can see that. And you can see that at the time that it is that the thought is there. And so when this happens, this is like your experience and realization.
So one still has that thought, just sees the nature of it. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Tene namto de la tarung yorbes. Namto ki ngo de tabe kaso namto de tarung yorbes.
Namto de la tanda namto je kaptana la kwa. Te yal nanda, mayal nanda, Koran kandido, kanati jendo samna, teni Koran jesa, jenkin, te nguzung sandabu yo marike. Tanda keti ma changwa ma impa Koran ta namto ke jenda hotel, kale samna tama. Yungtra.
And so, at the moment, or at the time that a thought is arising, when you're looking at the essence of the thought, whether it disappears or whether it doesn't disappear, you just look at the nature of that, and you see what the nature of that thought is. And so you can look at it at any of these times. And so here it's a question not of looking at the thought in a particular instant, but sort of looking at the continuum of the thought.
Pernang ngaranso tom dabujin tona o tom nabujin to ni ro song sang sang 단로 차례 이나 인도 송송송지 통그려 나라서 남도 지제 송송 남도 간디 제 송다나 가나 간디 제 송텔 카도 요마리 예비 요마리 넘바요 제 집이 초라라고 지어래 마도 은이 남도 가야 요마리.
For example, if you see a bear and you say, oh, that's a black bear, and oh, now the bear is gone. At the point that you're saying now the bear is gone, the bear has already left. But you still have that thought. And so in the same way, when the thought arises and you look at it and you say, well, what is it like? Where does it come from? Where does it go? What sort of a shape? What sort of a color does it have? What sort of appearance does it have? And when you look at it, you can't find anything like that other than just the sort of sensation of a thought arising. There's nothing at all that you can find. And so you just look at the essence of that.
Thank you.
I actually think my question was answered on my way up here. And you answered all my other questions this morning. So I'm going to ask the question I was on my way up to ask when I heard the answer. I was it has to do with looking at thoughts. I was looking at thoughts, and I was looking a movement of a shirt, and I was looking to see where the thought began and dwelled, and then I was looking at my little buzz in my ear, what was going on up there. And then I had the thought too, as I was looking through the questions, is this really different than when I'm speculating about something, when I'm just thinking? Because I'm thinking about where it begins, dwells. And as I thought that, I had, it just dawned that, yes, it is different. It was just clear. And this clarity, this knowingness, I thought I realized something. I got up and I walked away, I thought, I've realized the nature of the thought. Then I thought, but that wasn't the nature of the thought at all. It was clarity, it was prajna that I think that I experienced at that point. So, then I was again, and I was trying to wait for another thought. but the thought, I was trying to get to the point wherever it is that's you get to it before it arises, before it experiences. You before it doesn't arise. So I'm waiting again. And then it dawned on me that clarity that was looking doesn't arise. And that clarity was the same thing as prajna. It was the same thing as the direct experience. So, I've realized all these things, and I wonder what if you can possibly translate it.
I was wondering that last one myself. 내가 콩게 쇼게 검체베 가서 주토라 타와 쟤네 되는 남도 게 되네 남도 되게네 되는데 사자데 또 잡아 줘서 어디 사자들에 잡아 게시 키에레 데 어디 사자데 톡송 잡아 다콩 데 사자데 아니 셔랍 임바르 하고송 셔랍기란 신임바르 하고네 데 vanne de ngone de sacha ingi mare da de inde ngone topa in samare de nyamyong in samare da batene kon yaja dene yaja ta de ga sacha de ga make gingen tara de ta de make gingen de ane shirab imbar de sacha imbar shirab imbar ta de Yamnyong Dabo Kinska, Tenedilla Dekrayanas.
다데 냠냠 야부지야 인지르게 인지르라 텐데 지타나 데 갈리 갈링이 히제 그러봐 되는데.
So that probably was some good experience that arose there, and so and so you can just keep going and keep meditating. It's probably pretty good.
Thank you.
Pe